Corner, where you ask the questions, answer them live right here on Facebook. Got another user submitted question regarding CoPilot CRM by Mike Andes. As we're starting to dive into the system and assist some people with some of the workflow and automations as the system continues to evolve, there's a lot of general use questions that are getting submitted in through the Simple Growth Help Desk. So as usual fashion, as we help with many different CRMs, we want to go out and actually provide free value and workflow inside CoPilot, as well as other CRMs that we work with. So in CoPilot, the basic workflow that we're looking at today, and open up the screen, is using property measurements and how to actually take the square footage or linear feet, or say this number of small, medium, and large shrubs, and how do we take that variable inside CoPilot and save it to the lead or customer record. So I'm going to pop the screen open and kind of answer the question of how do you deal with custom fields and potentially property measurements here. So normal fashion here, when you log into CoPilot here, we've got customer detail. So up top, we've got some information here on the client, contact information, invoice area here, and auto creating for invoices. We'll talk about some of these questions that we keep getting submitted here on a regular basis. But the area that I'm looking for today here is custom fields. So right now in this test client, we have the number of small shrubs and turf square footage. So we're going to talk about how to create a custom field for, say, turf square footage, or the number of small, medium, and large shrubs, getting ready for the pricing matrices, as Mike Andes just talked about on his Facebook Lives that are coming in the future, and how to get set up for success and get the system ready for those new features and functions when they come. So first thing I'm going to do here is not necessarily do anything on the customer screen, but very similar. What we're going to do is always start with our custom fields. So when we go into resource custom fields. This is the area that we're living in to build out your custom fields inside CoPilot. So we're going to go in and add a field, this button here. Now these custom fields can apply to a whole bunch of different things, such as assets, chemical tracking, chemical app, customers, equipment, estimate quotes, events, jobs, invoice, and vendors. So I'm going to recommend, as we're diving into creating custom fields in a brand new software, let's blueprint it out before we go in and act absolutely crazy and start putting a bunch of different custom fields in. Let's think about on a high level what this looks like now and when we scale. How do we create a naming convention? How do we create the ability? So since custom fields can apply to such different things in here, what I'm going to recommend is, if we're building them out for our customers, let's have some kind of naming convention. Is maybe our customers are O1 dot space turf square footage. Our assets are maybe O2. So maybe employees, first things I would probably start with is the O1 for customers, O2 employees, and then maybe O3 assets. And then as we continue to go, we have a naming convention, so we know what type of custom field we're looking at and who it pertains to. So that's just kind of a pro tip that we do with our naming conventions. But I'm going to say we're going to apply this to customers field name here in this methodology here. Is I'm going to say this is an O1, which would be a customer space driveway square footage, and that would be for maybe snow removal or pavement sealing. Now the field type here, a lot of different options: checkbox, date, decimal. We're going to go for decimal, and that is going to be the area here. Now transferable field, this means it can transfer to different areas. If you're questionable when you're building this yourself, take a look, but it allows the data to be shown in multiple workplaces throughout the system. So we're going to click yes here for best practice, and we're going to save the field. So once we have this area in here, we can go in to the calculators and do the aerial measurement. And what we've got here is, I'm going to clear all the areas here. So we have our potential area here that we want to take a look at. So one area that I'm going to be looking at here is, and I'm going to go back to the client record real quick. So when we reset the custom fields, that pulls in the new custom fields here. So now that we've got all three, we're going to go in and measure the driveway square footage and the turf square footage. So I'm going to go back to our calculator aerial measurements and go in inside CoPilot and start to drive out the ability to measure this property. Now this property here is a little bit different. So I want to kind of show you some of the functionality of this. So what we have is area here, and that is our first area. So we're going to click in here and add our second area. And drive that down. And now we've covered that area. So we've got 2,900 square feet in the yellow, and we've got 5564. Now you can also go in and change those colors so everything is in that same yellow color as well here, and be able to update those areas. But the idea is we've got two areas now, and they're measuring up for 8509. Now, what if we had a mulch bed per se in the middle of this lawn area or a pool? We could go in and label this area the pool area or beds. And maybe we didn't want to include this fictitious bed in the middle of the property. So right now it's adding up those areas here total. But really what we want to do is subtract that area, that bed, or that area that we don't want included. So if we're doing parking lots or large areas with landscape beds or pools, we can go in and subtract that area here. And then that's going to go in. And this is going to be subtract from area. And that's going to give us the ability to go in and subtract from different areas as well. So those are some of the functionality pieces in here within the system. So let's say we've got this 8509 here, and we'll get rid of the beds just so there is no confusion there. So we've got 8,060 for the turf area. So what we'd want to do is take the 8060, go to the client record and put that in for the turf square footage. And the next thing we'd want to do is maybe go to driveway square footage and go in and put this, instead of building, this is our driveway for plowing. And what we're going to do there is go in and add our driveway. So we have multiple measurements, and we can also go in and subtract from if that's applicable in those. So we've got our driveway now at 1268, and we could put that in there at 1268. So main idea here is we want to be able to go in first thing on the client record. We want to set up these custom fields. Before we do that, we need to go in and go into resource custom fields, add a field. And as you're adding the field, we're going to select what it applies to. We're going to use some naming convention, hopefully for O1, say customer. So O1 stands for customer, O2 stands for employees. We can put in bed linear feet, and the type would be decimal, and we'd want it transferable and hit save. Once we set that up, we're going to go right back into CoPilot under calculate aerial measurements, measure these folks up, get the square footage, and then hop back to your client page and add them in and save custom fields. And then as we scroll down, we have our saved custom fields, which eventually will drive into our price matrices once those services are available. So comments, questions, drop below. Callahan's Corner. You ask the questions, we answer them live right here on Facebook.